Did you know that pollution causes 1.3 million premature deaths in India every year? Did you know that biomass burning contributes 60% of the particulate matter trapped over Delhi during winter months? Did you know that last winter Delhiites suffered 90 days of hazardous conditions of pollution? Hello and welcome to another edition of Capital Calculus. I'm your host Anil Padmanabhan. It's that time of the year in Delhi NCR when winter sets in. Normally, people would look forward, but in the last decade and more, there is a new dangerous subtext that has emerged, which is hazardous pollution, the silent killer. Even if you did not have prior respiratory conditions, you are still vulnerable to this level of pollution. Yet, our authorities have failed to do anything to combat it, excepting the ritualistic name calling and tokenism. If anything, the situation is getting worse every year. To understand the nature of this problem and to explore solutions, I spoke to Sachchida Nand Tripathi. He's a professor at IIT-Kanpur and someone who's deeply immersed in the research of clean air. But before that, here is an FAQ on the pollution challenge in Delhi, sourced from iForest.
What is the true scale of our pollution crisis? We are facing a subcontinental scale problem. The thick haze in Delhi extends across the Indo-Gangetic plains.
Smaller cities like Bhiwadi, Darbhanga, and Muradabad
Often report higher pollution levels than Delhi, and rural areas are equally affected. Pollution levels are 5 to 10 times higher than national standards and 20 to 40 times higher than WHO health-based guidelines. What are the main reasons of pollution in Delhi NCR? Several studies show that in Delhi NCR, biomass burning contributes more than 60% of PM 2.5. Industry accounts for 25% and transport contributes around 6%. Why does biomass burning in homes and fields contribute so much to PM 2.5? Unlike automobiles and industries, where some pollution control devices are used, biomass cook stoves and open burning in fields emit all of their pollutants unconstrained into the air. Thus, PM 2.5 emission per kilogram of biomass in cook stoves is tens to hundreds of times more than those from per kg of coal in power plants or diesel in automobiles. Are we not blaming and victimizing the poor by focusing on biomass? Absolutely not. The poor, especially poor women and children, are the worst sufferers of air pollution. They are hit twice over. They are affected by indoor air pollution because of firewood and cow dung cakes burning in their chulas, and they are affected by outdoor air pollution. Central government schemes such as Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, which enable the poor with cleaner cooking fuels, have been far more transformative in combating air pollution than implementing GRAP or other quick fix measures that are implemented each year.
I began by asking Professor Tripathi how his latest research on clean air improves our understanding of Delhi's pollution problem.
One paper that came out recently was in Nature Geoscience, which showed that the sudden haze formation in Delhi, particularly in post-monsoon starting from November until late January, happens because of growth of nanoparticles. In fact, the title of the paper had nanoparticle growth in that, and subsequently Nature Geoscience editorial also wrote about this paper, highlighting that particular issue which was addressed in that paper. And it shows that this primary emissions of organic gases basically leads to rapid growth of these nanoparticles. So you can think of like these are tiniest particles which you need to magnify by factor of 10 to 9 by a billion in order to see it, or if not a billion, maybe a fraction of billion in order to see them. And they grow to become maybe 1 millionth of a meter, which is micron size. So starting from nanometer, they grow to a micron size, possibly in a matter of overnight, 7, 8 hours. So 6 p.m., what we found, and that was mainly we looked into great detail in that paper, that 6 p.m. you have these very tiniest particles which are there, and they start growing when you have availability of this freshly burned emissions, and which are basically in the form of these organic vapors. And they go and they preferentially condense on these particles, and the particles will start growing. And so from nanometer to a tenth of micron, and that is just about 100 nanometer, they grow because of this mechanism. And beyond that, then of course, other kind of vapor, industrial vapor, can come and then make these particles grow. And there we saw that, starting maybe 60, 70 microgram per meter cube, when you see that, you can have visible sky and all. Not that is a super clean place or environment, but it is a lot better than what you see when you have these thick haze formation where the particulate matter rises to 300, 400, or 500 microgram per meter cube. This was the thing what we could look at by assembling different diverse set of data and by deploying many sophisticated instruments in Delhi NCR.
Professor Tripathi, what you just said is that PM 2.5 is naturally generated and then it interacts with air or moisture, and then you get secondary particulate matter. Now, this is something that I presume will happen through the year. So why is it that this challenge becomes so acute between October and February, particularly in the Indo-Gangetic Plain, which includes NCR?
So let me re-emphasize this thing that PM 2.5 is primarily originated from man-made activities, and PM 10 comes from the natural sources. Now, what you know that as slowly monsoon recedes and winter sets in, temperature drops, then a different set of activities start playing in particularly north part of India. If we focus on that part of India. So one is that, of course, the farmers need to clean their field, and just because of little lesser time they have between the crops, so the best thing what they could have done, or they do, is basically they burn the things in the farm. That's one. Second, now because of cold, then people like to keep themselves warm. So they also like to burn things starting from late October and middle of November. People like to burn just to keep themselves warm, or for other utilities, let's say warm water or space heating and all those things. But at the same time, what we also know that there will be some kind of municipal and other kind of street waste that also people tend to burn. Now, two additional activities which are basically playing here is that one, farm-based burning, and the second is basically people burning things to keep themselves warm. Now, why does it manifest in very high level of pollution episodes? Because the weather actually plays a very adverse role. Starting from end of October and all the way up to, let's say, late February, what happens that surface actually becomes a lot more colder than what it would be or what it is during summertime. The summertime surface is generally warm. We all have experienced, right? Summertime, when you go out, you see the roads are very very hot. And when you walk out after a chilly winter night, you know that things are very cold. That's why we try to keep our foot and, things warm to cover ourselves. Now, that has a direct bearing on the stability. What we call stability means that how the temperature changes with height. And so basically that has a very important consequence to how quickly the pollutants will disperse. So in summer, when the surface is hot and air is cool, then you have a different kind of temperature profile. It facilitates, is conducive for pollutants which are emitted on the surface to go up. Now imagine now late November and now, so, and particularly, on a chilly morning, now surface has become a lot colder, but the atmospheric processes are such that the air above that is warmer. So where the temperature profile was going like this, now it has reversed, is going like that. And now that has a way to trap pollution.
Very interesting. So what you're saying is part of the problem is the climate and the topography, the fact that we are also on the plains. So now, quick, logical follow-up question. That I presume this is always the case. So why is it that the pollution challenge is more acute today than, say, maybe 30 years ago?
Well, it is just like our rivers were a lot cleaner earlier. Our surface water was a lot cleaner 50 years back. You could simply go to a lake in a city, you can go to a pond in a city, and certainly even villages, and just can drink water directly from the rivers, ponds, or lakes. Can we do it today? No. Because a lot more economic activities are happening because of course, our population has also grown over a period of time. And that has led to a lot more things which we are emitting into the environment, right? So as it is true in the case of things going into water, just like now in the case of atmosphere, of course, it seems to be a huge media, which one would think that it has infinite dilution power. But the entire atmosphere, the nature has not given to us, right? It has other things. Some part is, kept for other purposes. So the part which is basically is responsible for doing the mixing, as I said, that which is probably 1 or 2 kilometer, has a lot of seasonal variability, which I just mentioned earlier, and then a lot more emissions. And then, of course, the seasonal variation will stay like that. In fact, with climate change, that there are other factors which are at play would even further reduce or is actually already reducing the mixing capacity of the lower atmosphere. So thereby what is happening, what we are seeing today.
So fascinating. What you're saying is that nature is doing its job, but we have neglected nature, taken it for granted, and which is a segue into what I want to take you to what you mentioned some time back. You said that a lot of this, the PM 2.5, is because of what we burn or combust. So whether it is automobile fuel, whether it is municipal waste, whether it is farm fires. Now, is that a correct assessment that a lot of the pollution is a function of what we burn?
It is. It is. Most of it is most of the PM 2.5 is because we burn something. We burn intensely or we burn it unintensely. You burn either diesel or gasoline or gas or petrol in car. Now, if you do not have enough control, and if your petrol, diesel is not sufficiently, let's say, clean, then what would come out will enter into atmosphere, and that will pollute the atmosphere. Or when you burn something on the farm, it also will certainly lead to emissions of gases and particulate matter, and that's going to pollute the atmosphere there. Or when you burn waste, again, that's a clear nexus between the way we dispose waste and what comes out as an emission, very, very, of course, poisonous that enters into the atmosphere. And likewise in industries, when you burn something. So either you are burning something for industrial purposes, or for deriving energy, or for just clearing your road, street, house, or farm, that all basically is going to give something in terms of particulate matter and gases. Now, if you do not have control, if you do not have ways to filter it, or if you do not move to the processes which do not give rise to these kind of emissions, then it will continue to pollute the atmosphere. It's very simple.
What should be the priority list for any policy planner planning a strategy to fight pollution?
Well, I mean, that is where I think we need to have those kind of tools which are hardly rooted into science. Then I think we can set our priorities right. And then we need other systems, infrastructure in place, which should be able to evaluate the interventions or the policy actions you are doing. Then this creates a positive loop. Now, unfortunately, we do not have that kind of thing as of now. And that's why I always mention that we need to have these kind of systems in place where your policy is rooted in science and outcome is evaluated based on data. Then so that most of the time your interventions give you desired results, right? Having said that, I believe that waste disposal should be a top ticket item because it very well serves the kind of desired goal of achieving hygiene and keeping our cities, clean. So there is no reason that we keep the waste undisposed or not disposed properly, liable for burning to be burned. So that is one thing definitely it should be done because it's a no-brainer. Let's put that way. Now, farm also fire, although it has reduced, we have looked into this data this year, and there is a consistent trend that over a period of time, number of fire counts are decreasing. If not, they have not come to zero. So of course, there many things have been done, and some more scope is there to, for example, do the crop diversification, and etc. The third thing is it is true that for economic activities one would require to move from one place to another, and public transport is getting more and more accessible. But I believe that while we are trying to move the public and private fleet to EV, one thing one can definitely probably kind of expedite is the transition of all, let's say, organized transport to EV. When I say organized transport, then I mean, let's say, all the government vehicle can move to EV. Not only notional, all. Wherever there is a government department, agencies, municipal corporation, ministry, anybody, be it part of government or it, let's say, associated with government, all of them can move to EV. Likewise, all school buses, all government school and all private school buses, it's also organized. They all must be mandated to move to EV. Likewise, all factory-related transport and likewise commercial transport can be switched to EV.
Well, I think you're spot on. Anecdotally, we see that in Delhi. Now, the clear challenge is the municipalities, I guess, because they are the operational people in tackling waste disposal, etc. But the municipal story is another sad story because financially they're extremely weak, and of course, political interference, etc., worsens the challenge. So, given this, that the municipalities are unlikely to be fixed, overnight, may take years. So, which means, are we to be reconciled that we have to live with this pollution challenge for God knows how long?
No, I think the situation is not so grim. I think I know all of us know that there are success stories and the cities like Indore, We know, but Indore is not the only shining beacon. There are, I think, at least 10 cities who have a fantastic waste management system in place. There are some in Northeast. And anybody would wonder that, you think Northeast cities have so much of revenue getting collected, more than Delhi? Probably not. So we need to adopt this practice to learn the good practices from others. That is another challenge we have, that we don't go out and learn from others, that what others are doing, what is good for their city. Now that's the first thing. The second, I believe that if we have this thing that this is our city and we need to do something, if that can kind of create some kind of, let's say, a positive, what you may call pressure or whatever, that certainly some of these representatives who go to the municipal council and all may act. But I believe that more than that, there are good number of now young people who are entrepreneurs, which we call now in terms of startups. They are very active in the sustainability space. Since we started this new entity at IIT-Kanpur Kotak School of Sustainability, and as its first dean, I had this opportunity to talk to many of them in connection with what we are doing in Kanpur and in other cities. There are just so many, and they have really good ideas, not only in terms of, let's say, the management, but also in terms of bringing interesting technologies. So I believe that if we can take their help, probably a lot can be done in that space. And that is where I think the municipality has to take the lead role here. That is whoever is in charge of that municipal corporations.
The big takeaway then is that the pollution problem in Delhi has crossed the tipping point. In fact, Delhi is at risk of being given the unwelcome moniker of a polluted city. As Professor Tripathi pointed out, battling pollution should be based on science, not whimsical ideas or tokenism. For example, there has to be a clear system to both collect and disperse waste matter in any city, particularly in Delhi. Unfortunately, in this instance, the frontline warrior is the municipal corporation. And in Delhi, like in most cities in India, the municipality is in a state of utter neglect, highly incapable of doing even the routine functions, leave alone battle such a national challenge as in pollution. Tackling pollution requires serious heavy lifting. Unfortunately, our politicians and national media are just busy outraging. As they say, outraging is exciting, nuance is work. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to StratNews Global on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates. And please do share your thoughts, ideas and suggestions with us. I'm available on Twitter, or what they call X today, @ Capital Calculus. I'll be back next week with another episode. Till then, stay safe.